Want to call the roll, Beth?
Sure. Commissioner Schlangen,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Pop,
Here.
Commissioner Kapinski,
Here.
Commissioner Heinen.
Here. Approve or amend the agenda. Any changes, additions?
I had none, Mr. Chair, although Commissioner Kapinski might have one for Commissioner concerns.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to add a letter to Congressman Emmer for commissioner concerns.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the amended agenda.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the amended agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. County board meetings are broadcast live and video recorded on YouTube. Please restrain from speaking from the audience area and come to the podium so that viewers can hear you. The county board observes the Roberts Rules of Order for its meetings, so please obtain the board chair's consent before addressing the county board. Public comments are generally reserved for the open forum segment of the public hearing. However, public comments on other agenda items may be allowed at the discretion of the board chair. As we begin today's, please turn off your cell phones or turn them to vibrate. Thank you. Open forum. Anybody back there, Steve?
Nope.
On the consent agenda, we have items 1 through 7. Does anybody wish to have any of these pulled for further discussion?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to pull item 1, the regular minutes from October 5th.
And I would like to pull number 6 also.
Okay, number 1 and number 6 have been requested to be pulled.
Mr. Chair, sorry. I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda items 2 through 5 and item 7.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded to approve items 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7, with 1 and 6 being pulled for further consent. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We'll take item number 1 first.
Just a minor correction in the last county board minutes from the 5th under the Hanson property discussion, where it discusses the vote results. It was 3-2, not 3-1.
Correct.
Okay. You wanna,
And I'll make a motion to approve the amended minutes from October 5th.
I have,
Second.
hold on,
I'm,
wait
I've got-
wait
I've
a
got
second.
We're
couple
only,
items
we're only
too.
working on
We're
one.
only
You
working
want
on 1.
yeah.
Okay.
You have something else on 1?
Yeah, I just found a spelling error. On the third page, the third from the bottom paragraph on the last line, replacement, program grant. It should be, there should be a T.
Thank you.
Okay,
Did we, Scott, did we just, it left out the date for the, on the last paragraph for the, District 5 AMC meeting, the date was just left off. That was it on 1.
okay.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve the amended minutes for item 1 from the October 5th meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded to approve agenda item 1 with the added corrections. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Item number 6, that was you, Beth.
Okay, 6. I just had some questions about the insurance. So is it saying that the employees are going to have 6% of the increase and the county has 6% of the increase
Well,
figured in there or what?
the employees in the county share in the dollar increase 50/50. So it results in the different percentage increases for employees, but the dollars are split.
Split 50/50.
So whatever that dollar increase is for each total premium, half goes to employee, half goes to the county.
Okay, and that was all adjusted on these?
Sorry?
This is all
That
adjusted?
concept is reflected in these numbers.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I also had a question, when you do the quarterly filing taxes for, to the federal government, and there's a line for insurance deductions?
141.
Do you get to deduct any insurance expenses on that?
Well, yeah, obviously, as a tax exempt entity, we don't pay any taxes. It doesn't affect our, obviously, we withhold, federal and state income taxes from employees' checks and we remit those to the federal government. It doesn't affect that amount that's withheld.
No, I mean,
Although maybe your question is.
the question is about, there's a line for
Is
taxes.
it a
There's-
pre-tax deduction for employees? Is that maybe the question?
No, this is for the county, if they give money, to it, the insurance companies and stuff, are they able to deduct any of that on one of the lines on the nine
Are
41?
we able to deduct it or is the insurance company able to deduct?
Are you able to
Uh,
deduct the expenses you had to insurance, from insurance
No,
company?
that is not a factor for us at all. No.
Okay.
Again, as a governmental entity, it's not a factor for us. No.
Okay, so there's no deduction there.
No.
Okay,
No, there is not.
just checking.
Okay.
Okay, Beth.
Okay, I approve the number 6.
Gotta make the motion.
Second.
I make a motion to approve number 6.
Okay.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve number 6. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Monty.
Mr. Chair, it was requested, I put this on the agenda by the folks over at SWCD. Is anyone from SWCD here, though?
No.
Apparently not. Well, maybe what we could do is just put this item on the table for now and see if someone from SWCD arrives.
Okay.
Or maybe we can give them a call and say, hey, maybe you forgot us or something like that. I'm trying to remember, it's the new person over at Soil and Water.
Kendra.
Ken.
Kendra.
Yes. Requested this. So, well, why don't we just table this for now and we can
Okay.
come back to it?
Okay. Sounds good. And we'll move on to Chris at Public Works.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Morning.
So today I bring to you a request to approve the bids for this project, SAP 005-599-026. What this project is the replacement of a township bridge. This is bridge number L9200. That's the Sucker Creek Bridge over Sucker Creek on Sucker Creek Road. It's a township road, but each 87 counties receives an allotment from the gas tax formula each year based on the number of deficient bridges in their county. So that's going to be the primary funding source for the replacement of this bridge is our township bridge allotment. We opened bids on Friday, October 1st, and Marvin Treader Incorporated of Pierce, Minnesota was the lowest responsible bidder. So we got a typical resolution here. We did receive several bids. Once again, it was very competitive. We received 6 bids, and Marvin Treader was the lowest responsible bidder, like I said, with a total bid of $271,396.00. So I am recommending that we award a construction contract to Marvin Treader. This would happen next year in 2022. Once again, due to materials for the concrete box culverts, it'll be next year before they're manufactured and delivered to the site.
Any questions? I guess what, I can't read the numbers very well. What did it come in under or over your
Actually,
estimate?
this one, yeah, each time we open bids and we learn what the average prices are, we adjust. So this one did come in under our bid, or under our estimate, 9.78% under the engineer's estimate. So, once again, very competitive. Like I said, the next lowest bid was only $5,000 difference out of $276,000. But yeah, 5 out of the 6 bids were below the engineer's estimate, so. Good
Um,
mix.
My other question was, so when they're putting that in, are we responsible for all the, engineering stuff that has to go on out there?
Township bridge funding is a little bit different. Those costs are eligible to be reimbursed by that same funding. So townships are responsible for the first $10,000 of engineering and the first $10,000 of construction costs. So basically for $20,000, they can get a $270,000 bridge replaced. So we will seek reimbursement for our engineering costs and the construction costs through that township bridge.
So the engineering cost is figured in the 271 or?
No, that's on top of this.
That's on
It's
top of
another $20,000 of engineering or so on top of this.
Engineering, and then, like when we do a road project, you always gotta have techs out there.
Yeah,
And that is a crick, I imagine DNR has gotta be involved and.
yep, there was a DNR permit required and applied for. And yeah, the inspection of it is additional to this.
Okay, and
as
that'll
well.
all be picked up by the township.
Yep.
Okay.
mhm. So, yeah, so this is not, there's no county levy dollars. We're not using wheelage tax or sales tax or anything for this.
Mr. Chair, so Chris, is the township going to give 10 grand for each one? Or if the engineering was 8,000, is that what they're charged, or how does that work?
You're right. If the engineering came in under $10,000, they'd only be charged for that engineering cost.
Okay, so the maximum from the township is 20 grand.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I should add too, at their township officers meeting last week, they did approve the bids as well, so.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to adopt the resolution award construction contract to the lowest responsible bidder.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to award the contract for Bridge SAP 0050599-2026. Any other discussions on it? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks.
Very good, that's
Uh,
all I had, but is there any questions? I'd be happy to answer those, or?
Mr. Chair, because we're a little ahead of schedule here.
Right.
See, I'm gonna ask Chris a question if I could. So you said culverts for next year, but how about the current projects that are in line though? Are County 50 and
Very
is it, I
good.
believe, 80 or 81 happening this fall?
That's correct. Thank you for asking that. I do have that in my notes. If I was allowed time, I was gonna add that. So thank you for asking. We had a pre-construction meeting last week. Landwear Construction is the contractor on that. They're actually gonna bring in 2 crews and do both bridges, actually starting next week.
Great.
Next Monday, County Road 80 will be closed down to start demolition of the existing bridge. Either Wednesday or Thursday of next week, they plan on closing County Road 50 and start demolition of that old bridge. So weather holds out, everything goes well. I'd say by the end of November, we should have new bridges on both of those roads.
Great, thank
So,
you.
yeah, that's good. We talked about that, and they decided to go ahead and bring a second crew. They were just gonna focus on one bridge at a time, but, yeah, they're gonna go and bring 2 crews in and get those knocked out before we start having winter here.
Perfect.
So,
Thank you.
That's
Any other questions for Chris?
all right, if I'm allowed one more minute, I do wanna brag a little bit on our maintenance crew. 2 weeks ago, was the Minnesota Fall Maintenance Expo that's held at St. Cloud Public Works. Each year, they have a little truck rodeo competition there. We did not take first, but I am proud to say that we had drivers place second, third, and fourth in that competition. So we want to brag on them a little bit.
Great.
We're very proud of them for doing that. It's a competition based on time and skill. There's a course set up with cones, and there's even a pre-trip inspection where they purposely have things wrong with the truck, and that's factored into your score. You need to do your inspection and make sure you find those same things that are wrong before you go out and do your course. So, not the best, but some of the best drivers, snowplow drivers in the state are right here in Benton County. So we're happy to
Great.
have that. So.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Thank you for bringing that up. I was gonna actually bring that up under commissioner updates because I talked to Mr. Ebnant over the last week, and he was pretty excited about that.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, we are proud of it. So we might reach out to the newspaper too and see if they'd be willing to do a story on it. Embarrass them a little bit. And,
Yeah.
and put their face.
Jacob
out
was
there, so.
listening, so that's good.
Yeah.
Down careful notes.
Okay. I guess there's a region or a Transportation Alliance meeting coming up in St. Cloud.
Yeah.
Are you gonna be attending that?
I think so. I don't always go to those, but since it's in St. Cloud, I would like to try to attend. Margaret Donahoe, who's the executive director of that, she usually tries to bring in a lot of stakeholders, a mix of counties, cities, even contractors sometimes. She likes to bring in legislative representatives too and talk about what they see coming down the line for transportation funding and get a chance to talk about our needs and stuff. So she tries to move it around the state, but since this year it's in St. Cloud, I think I'd like to try to attend.
Cause I think a number of years ago, this is the same one we went to in St. Paul. I went with you.
Probably is, yeah.
Was it all
Yeah.
year? And it was interesting with the state legislatures and you got a chance to speak about your needs in your part of the county.
Yeah, yeah, I think it would be good if you guys are invited and able to attend, it'd probably be a good informational meeting to go to, so.
Anything else? We still have a couple minutes before we can do human services.
You have nothing else written down, Chris?
Well, I do. I will add, we have started on our County Road 22 project. We closed that down this week. We've started replacing entrance pipes and the entrances along CASA 22. So that's going on this week. Next week, they will be closing down County Road 22 at the Rum River. That bridge that crosses the Rum River on County Road 22. We have to do some repairs on that. We strip off the bituminous pavement and put a waterproofing membrane down to seal off between the bituminous and the concrete bridge deck. But to do that, you can't allow traffic on it for 24 hours or so. So that'll happen. That'll get closed down next week. Otherwise, traffic is still open and available to travel County Road 22 this week.
Mr. Chair, that's similar to what you did to County 4, correct?
Correct, the same thing. Yep. Those bridges are constructed using precast concrete channel beams, and so there's a seam at each beam, and it's really important to keep that sealed up and keep water, because what do we do in the winter? We put salt on there, so salt water getting down in there and start corroding steel. We need to try to seal that out the best we can. So yeah, that's happening on County Road 22. Once again, that's a 2022 year project that due to the weather and conditions this year, we were able to advance and just get that farther ahead in our 5-year road construction plan.
Okay,
Great.
all right. Hey, thanks for the
Very good.
update.
Chris?
Thank you.
If you wanted, I guess you could jump ahead to Jeff's got the St. Cloud cleaning contract. You could jump ahead to that if you'd like to
Okay,
cover some time. I see Jeff is here.
Good morning.
Good morning, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Thanks for seeing me this morning. This morning I'm here to go over, what we had for RFPs and, cleaning service for the next 5 years. Our cleaning contract actually ended at the end of last year with, Service Master, and it was extended for a year due to COVID concerns and stuff like that with changing companies. I can kind of go over the process. We sent out, we published RFPs. We also sent out 18 RFPs to different companies in the area. We had 9 companies that came and did our walkthrough as far as checking out the facilities and checking out what the work entailed. Of them 9, we had 4 that came back with bids. Of them 4, one was our current carrier. 2 other ones that we were interested in interviewing, we interviewed, and we have come down to a conclusion that we'd like to go forward with St. Cloud Cleaning Service as our next cleaning service for the next 5 years at a cost of $13,987 a month.
Mr. Chair,
yes.
couple questions. I don't know if they're for Jeff or Monty. As I
Do our
looked through
best.
this contract, one question was references. I don't know if there was references checked or I didn't see any list of references there.
There was, I can go through and each of the cleaning services, when they put in their bids, referenced 3 references
Okay.
on there, and I did go through and check all the references.
Perfect. That's one question. Another question, has Michelle Meyer reviewed the contract?
Yes, it's got her signature. Yep.
Oh, okay, sorry, I missed that.
You bet. Yeah, Michelle signed off on it. Yep.
She's kind of
Also,
the guy and going me through the whole process.
great. Also, Monty, just wanted to walk through your comparison here, and I don't know if I'm not necessarily reading this correctly, but if the county was to hire a full-time lead custodian and also 4 part-timers, my assumption would be a lead custodian would be 40 hours a week,
That's true.
and part-timers would be an additional 100.
Right.
So we would have 140 hours a week in cleaning,
Yeah. Yep.
okay? Does that seem right?
That's our best estimate. It's interesting. I look back and before we went with contracted custodians, we had 5 full-time custodians.
Wow.
This is way less than what we had 10 years ago. It's a judgment call. That in our best judgment, that's what we think would be required to adequately clean our buildings. But it's actually way less hours we had before. So
It just seems like a lot of hours to me, 140 hours a week of man hours.
A lot of buildings though, too.
There is a lot of buildings.
Yeah.
I understand that.
And I think too, one thing to consider is, in any given week, you're probably going to have someone gone,
Yeah,
sick leave, vacation, et cetera, et cetera. So you've got to have a little bit of coverage then, because if you don't have the folks, then the buildings don't get clean. So,
So is it fair to say we're gonna get 140 hours a week from St. Cloud Cleaning?
we asked the owner how many hours, and she kind of kept that somewhat confidential. And I guess for me, I don't necessarily really care how many hours they spend here, just so the buildings are clean. That really doesn't necessarily matter a lot to me. We're concerned about the end product. So, but she did not disclose to us the number of hours that they would be here.
Mr. Chair, did we reiterate the issues we've been having with the
We
cleaning?
shared some concerns.
Okay.
Yes, we did. Yep, for sure. Yeah.
I think we need to stay on them, like, for the first couple of months to make sure they're following everything that was supposed to be done, so they don't get in a habit.
right. And usually the part is, new company, new position, they do better than average.
Yeah.
Better than job that they have to try to impress,
Mr. Chair, I get, also from my perspective, I'm a little nervous about a 5-year contract. I do see that there is quote unquote an out here if we need to be out. 5 years is a long time, and I'm sure that they priced it that way. And maybe they didn't,
Sure.
I don't know.
Before we did 3 agreements, it seems like 3 years would go by really fast. And then we're back to another RFP. And I personally believe that a long-term relationship is important, stability is important, continuity is important. And we asked the owner, is this price good for 5 years? She said, yes.
Okay.
So that gives us some certainty as to cost, which I like. And again, it just seems like 3 years just goes by so quickly. And then we're looking at another RFP. So the contract does have provisions to terminate if necessary, so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, does the contract allow for the contractor to terminate under?
It does, of course, right. That's pretty typical. Both parties
Yeah.
can terminate, yeah.
My guess is year 4, they could be looking at the labor rates and going, we're in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Wishes?
No, I'm good, thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the 5-year maintenance cleaning contract, or the cleaning contract.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve a 5-year cleaning contract with St. Cloud Cleaning Services. Any other discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
you.
All right, thanks.
Now we'll recess the county board and turn it over to Commissioner Heinen for Human Services.
We'll call it order the Human Services Board. Approve or amend the agenda. Do we have anything that you want to add, Bob?
No changes.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve the amendment as presented.
I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We only have one under consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'll
I'll move approval of consent agenda number 1.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Bob, review costs for child in a state facility.
Sandy is gonna come and present for both items, so I get to sit and watch this morning, so.
Okay.
Sandy, if you want to.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So this first agenda item isn't exactly happy news. So the rules and laws have changed. There has been a state hospital in Wilmer for children and adults for many, many years. The adult facility no longer exists, and the children's facility was greatly reduced in size. They usually aren't at capacity because the number of children they have in there have high needs, and usually sometimes they only have 4 kids in their facility at all. We were lucky enough to get one of our children in there. He's been our ward since 2013. He has been in and out of a number of facilities. He is large in stature, very aggressive, and has a low IQ. So he makes him very difficult to place in facilities. He's actually our first child to be under civil commitment in many, many years. I think we've only had 2 in the years I've worked here. He is in this facility, which the cost of per day is $2,473. Previously, it was covered by MA, it still is, and insurances. But when a child meets what they call does not meet medical necessity, then in the past, the state picked up the cost for the child to be there until you could find another placement for him. As of August, that changed, and the counties now pick up 100% of that fee. Our child did not meet medical necessity as of August 24th. We have called over 100 facilities looking for a place for him to go, and we're talking nationwide. We're not just talking Minnesota. We haven't tried Alaska or Hawaii, but otherwise we have called all over. We did, a year ago, when did we develop? Over a year ago, we developed a facility with a company right here in Benton County that was staffed, highly staffed. He did blow out of that facility. We've been waiting for them to restaff their facility. They've been unable to hire enough individuals because they're requesting staffing at three adults to him. So 3 to 1 staffing, and they've been unable to hire. So he has sat there under our cost in Wilmer since August 24th. We are now hoping to get him out November 15th. But that's given if the facility, we're now looking at a new facility in Winona, if they can have staffing and are able to do it. I really don't see any alternatives. We have called, we have dedicated a lot of staff time trying to look for a place for this child. But I want you to be aware of it because it is a pretty costly item. It's about $74,000 a month while he's there, with no reimbursement for it. It's county dollar.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair. Sandy, what are you looking at for costs from Winona?
Well, that's a little different. So when we go to Winona, the cost, or I don't know how much it'll be in Winona, but here in Benton County, we had him here, the cost was $3,002 a day, but that was paid by a waiver, so it wasn't county dollar. So Winona, the county dollar will be about $700. We just pay a base rate there. There's still a taxpayer dollar,
Yes.
but it's not Benton County alone.
So the 700 for Benton County per,
Per month, actually,
month.
only. Where $3,000 a day would be waiver dollars,
okay.
yes.
And when will you know if he'll be accepted there, or if they will accept him?
Well, there's a lot of steps in that, of course. We have to get, it's complicated, but we have to get a bed, foster care bed, moved, approved, and moved down there, and they have to hire enough staff. We understand they're willing to accept him. The concern is that the facility we built here, had them build here in Benton County, has reinforced walls, has a lot of safety protocols. This facility in Winona will not have the reinforced walls, some of those type of things that could cause him to get discharged from there at some point if there's enough damage. So just kind of letting you know, we've done our best, we have tried, we have looked everywhere, but this is a difficult kid. This is where there isn't a safety net for the state.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
so my math is right at $900,000 a year.
I didn't do the yearly.
902, 645.
Yeah, yeah.
Monty and I have talked about this for probably 5 years, the worst-case scenario
And
of,
fear.
of kids in placement. And we have, in the past, tried to develop services so that we can provide for these kids. However, in the worst-case scenario where the kid is very violent and so forth, people just don't want to work for $15, $20 an hour in the community. So it's a situation where no matter how hard we try to develop these sites, we still have to have people work with these kids and so forth. And we have others that could potentially fall in this group, not too many, but the thing is, this is the first time that I've been here that we've been in this situation, but it is unavoidable. And we have looked nationwide, like we've said, so I think it's a situation where we just wanted to alert you guys that this is a situation where we have talked about it and it is finally fallen on our doorstep, so.
Mr. Chair, lost my train of thought. Can you tell me again why it doesn't qualify for a waiver?
It's a state hospital, it's a hospital facility, so the facility is not eligible for waiver dollars. You know, it's
Alright.
gotta be paid for medical insurance. And they're saying he's met his plateau medically. That's not what he needs someone to manage his behavior
Okay.
and his aggressiveness.
And how about as far as an age-wise, does that go on forever as a ward, or age 21, 25? How,
At age 18, he would no longer be our ward.
Okay.
But he'll probably still be our responsibility somehow because he's dangerous and unable to care for himself. It will probably be easier to find a facility for him.
okay,
But again, his IQ, his aggression, because of his IQ, he can't be charged legally. So when he does harm, you know, he doesn't get to go to jail or have to go to jail.
okay.
And it's not the worst case scenario. I think it's our second worst case scenario because we're paying a lot of dollars. Worst case scenario that we've worried about is that this child wasn't in a facility and was sitting in our lobby and we needed to staff him ourselves. That would be worst case scenario. So it's a cost, but it's not injuring our staff or him. He's in a safe place.
Mr. Chair, just a question off the cuff here. How many of these cases are in the state? Let alone, I mean, obviously it doesn't pertain to Benton County, but is there a lot of them or?
They're all a little different, but I mean, we have a kid right now in Pennsylvania that we could not place anywhere else. We had a kid in Missouri that we couldn't place anywhere else, but we weren't paying that big a dollar for him. But every once in a while, I mean, so I don't know how many right now are there. There's a couple. This one's ours.
Still a hard number to swallow, though.
Yeah.
Well,
One of the other things that we do is we have the ability to put aside in our fund balance money specifically earmarked for this, and I think that Monty and I have talked in the past about $250K set aside for this specific reason. However, obviously that's a drop in the bucket to what it's gonna be, but there are things that we can do to help with this cost that doesn't necessarily affect our actual budget. Because I think obviously when you put $1 million on top of our out-of-home placement costs, it's gonna blow our budget. So that there are some things that we can do, but I think that's just kind of playing with numbers. But the idea is that this is, we know that this is, could happen, and it did happen, so I think that it's always our best interest, of course, to let you know that when our out-of-home placement costs just absolutely skyrocket this year, that there's a reason why. Oftentimes, there's something that we just simply can't do anything about, and it's uncontrollable, but we have to find care for these kids. And by the way, Monty and I have talked about that, our staff actually housing somebody in a hotel room or something like that is not something that we're gonna do. We simply will not do it. And what we will do is, and I hate, we will spend the money necessary to avoid putting our people, our employees in harm's way. So that's kind of where the backdrop of this.
So hopefully the next time I come to board, I can tell you we moved him successfully. But I thought you should know just where we're at with this.
When is that date?
November 15th, currently.
November 15th?
I'm not holding my breath, actually, but we've been at this date before, but we're trying.
Well, thanks for the
Yes.
interesting news, I guess.
Thanks, everybody, for working with this. This is a difficult situation.
For sure.
That's tough. Well, move on.
The next agenda item is asking to apply for a grant. I'm in the process of writing a grant, hopefully to fully cover our homeless outreach worker. We did receive $18,000 starting in January from the Community Adult Mental Health Initiative, so that's a little help. But if I were to get this, be successful at applying for this grant, we would cover the majority of our costs. In addition, some flexible funding that could be used for like first month's deposit, background checks, those kind of things to help people get housing. So I just need permission to apply for the grant.
Is this a 2-year grant then?
It is.
Right, okay.
Mr. Chair, and Sandy, when would you find out the results from your grant?
I'm not sure the date we find out, but it goes into effect January 1.
Okay,
So December.
yeah, 30th.
Was the homeless position we approved it for?
So if we get this grant, then there'll be 2 positions over there then?
No, I was asking to cover the one that we
Just
already.
the one, okay.
Just the one, yes. I'm not asking for additional. I'm looking for funding to help
Cover the one. that
pay
we
the
have.
costs that we
Okay.
have.
That's what I
Thank you.
understood.
Yes, sorry.
And Mr. Chair, if I recall, the 18,000 that you talked about was already included in our budget presentation, correct? No?
I don't think
that-
so.
No.
We mentioned that there was some money maybe coming, but we
Okay.
didn't know that amount was in there.
reimbursement for administrative funds.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay,
This is something that the adult mental health initiative is kicking in
Correct.
to each of the counties, and that's our share.
okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve long-term funding for homeless support services grant.
Submittal of the grant.
Right, yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion, a second. Any other questions or discussion on this? Call the question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Get this grant.
Yes.
Okay, Bob, anything
That
else?
was all we had. Any questions for anything else?
I don't think so.
No, I think we're good. We got the good news and the bad news, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did.
Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
At this time, we'll turn it back to the board chair. Well, we'll adjourn the Human Services Board, and I'll turn it back over to the board chair.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Heinen. We'll go back to Monty Headley. We did the 5-year cleaning.
So, Commissioner Pop, back on the soil and water issue, I apologize that folks from soil and water aren't here. Did you by chance know what they were looking for and who they'd like to appoint on this one watershed, one
Well-
plan group?
All I know is that they appointed their appointee to
Okay,
the Soil and Water Board.
yeah. I'm sorry, I had no further information from Kendra, and I made the assumption she'd be here to discuss the issue. I emailed both her and Jerry, and perhaps they'll still show up before the meeting is over. If not, we'll just bring it back at the next meeting.
That'd be great.
Mr. Chair, if I could, Monty, just to expound on it, I think that recommendation or the ask for it came from the last RAC advisory meeting because they're looking for, instead of multiple representatives, maybe there's gonna be one because RAC might get slowed down for a while this goes on, is the way I
okay.
understood it.
Really?
And so instead of having multiple people appointed, like yourself and myself, it would maybe be one.
Okay.
For the somewhat short term, and then if RAC fires back up again,
Just a thought, Monty, what happens if we were to appoint one of you guys, if you guys were willing to do that? That way we could suffice their need for an appointee.
I can only guess what their desired outcome is, so
I-
I don't see any harm in just, maybe they'll still arrive before the meeting's
Okay.
over, or we'll bring it back at your next meeting.
yep,
So
I think so. I'd like to hear from them specifically.
Okay.
Or two.
Alrighty.
I would have to agree with you, Commissioner
Yeah.
Johnson.
Wasn't there didn't they have to have an appointee before the next meeting or something? I think there was a timing
They're
issue
having a
here.
meeting.
Well, here's
know.
what I'll do is, when I'm done with these items, I'll call Jerry too and see if at least he can tell me over the phone who we should appoint.
Or if
Okay.
we need to today.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
okay.
the first question, yeah.
Yeah.
So we took care of the cleaning contract. Looks like next is the signage. So I was maybe it's committee of the whole, I don't remember exactly. I heard the suggestion to look at a sign out at Highway. So we asked the folks from Scenic Sign to come over and do an estimate for us.
the scenic sign actually constructed the two signs you see out here on the highway, those nice monument signs. They did those for us probably 10 years ago or so. So we thought, well, they do a great job, good local company. It'd be nice to have a sign that looks similar to those. So they did the estimates that are in your packet here. It'd be about $8,000 to construct a sign of similar design for a highway. One difference is that we would not have it lighted, although it could be lighted. When they were here, we had them take a close-up look at the existing signs, and they're getting faded and cracked and so on and so forth. So they gave us an estimate to refurbish the two existing signs. They'd actually take the signs down and they would take them into the plant there in Sauk Rapids and disassemble them and replace things that are cracked and faded and so on. They did give us an option to retrofit the lighting in both those to LED, which is, I'm guessing, is more energy efficient and also brighter. So that's the quote from Scenic. And they did a super job on those two signs, and again, it's a good local Sauk Rapids company. So, thoughts, reactions?
Thoughts, reactions? I actually brought that before Chris at one point in time, because as you drive across the state, every county's highway building is well marked, and we got this little blue sign out there. If you blink, you miss it.
It's been 3 years in the waiting.
That's something like that, yeah.
That little bitty sign out there was a Bob Gazelle thing,
Okay.
and you had to know Bob. He always wanted to keep things under the radar for some reason.
Well, you know, people sometimes want to go there.
That
and
little
they can't,
sign,
They can't
yeah.
find it unless they, actually GPS it or something.
Bob was our former county engineer in the old days.
Okay. Unless Chris doesn't want to sign out there. It's a great facility, and I think taxpayers need to know where it is.
So is this going to be on the north side or the south side of the intersection?
Probably
where
east
you-
side.
East side.
East
East
side.
side where it's at
I would
now.
say east side, yeah.
A real little sign there now.
Yeah.
Real little sign.
Yeah, somewhere on the east side.
Maybe Commissioner Slungen, we're talking about the highway building out there.
Yeah,
so
I
as
know,
I'm heading-
it's, when you're coming from the south, it's hard to know which road you're supposed to turn on, or it's right there. When you get there, it's right by the trees, and
Yeah,
it's kinda,
It'll be somewhere's at the entrance, I'm sure.
well, it's possible, yeah.
Yeah.
so, yeah, if you could be a little bit more warning than before you get to the street, it's nice.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough. Them are not
Or
our,
big,
put it on
or
our
big
property.
enough to see.
yeah. Cause I don't think that property by them trees is ours, is it, Chris?
No.
I was just thinking,
That little sign that's there isn't enough to alert you that it's right there.
just for space reasons, it'd probably be on the north side of our driveway. 'Cause
Right.
we're gonna have to keep it outside of MnDOT
Right.
Yep.
road right away.
Yep,
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
but it will be a lot bigger than what's there. Yeah.
you bet.
Is your wishes to do these separately or do them together?
If we're gonna do one, we do them both.
Okay.
We do them all together.
Okay.
My opinion.
All right. Any other discussion or questions?
I'll make the motion for that.
Okay.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to move forward with the signage and refurnishing of the two signs.
Yes, both signs.
All right.
Mr. Chair, just to confirm, Monty, you're looking at capital projects?
Yeah, the
Budget,
the
yeah.
fund balance that's in capital projects fund would be sufficient to cover this cost, you bet.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I'll call the questions. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
Thank you. Okay. The next item I bring to you, and I want to certainly stress this at the request of Anoka County. So I put up on your screen here a little bit about the facility. This is the East Central Regional Juvenile Facility. As it says here, it's a 36-bed secured facility for juveniles ages 10 to 18. And this is their term, who have committed delinquent acts. So Benton County courts will send a juvenile to this facility for treatment and secure detention. I don't necessarily know how long the facility's been there, but it was, of course, were there when I started here 19 years ago. And at the time, Benton County was actually a member of a joint powers organization and held contracted beds at East Central. We actually had 3 contracted beds.
Over time, though, we were not utilizing those beds very fully, but we were still paying for them. And after a certain period of time, one bed was relinquished. Then ultimately, as our juvenile needs continue to fall, excuse me, we relinquished all of our beds, and then just started paying the non-member rate. So to this day, we of course send juveniles to the facility, but pay the non-member rate. So Anoka County is approaching other counties and asking them to consider rejoining or joining, and as members, the benefit would be you pay the member rate, and you would have then a guaranteed bed. So in other words, you've got that bed for your juvenile, and you don't need to necessarily look at other locations to house this juvenile. So that's kind of the ask, I think, of Anoka County. Doesn't look like, I was hoping Deb or Troy could be with us, but they are not. Just to share with you a little bit of what I'm hearing from the folks at Anoka, it sounds like they have significant concerns about the financial viability of the facility. They are looking for this sort of guaranteed, dedicated revenue stream to help support the facility. When I've spoken with the gentleman from Anoka, his stress is that Anoka County will not subsidize this facility. It needs to be self-sustaining through member contributions. I included in your packet a slideshow that was given to me by the folks at Anoka. One of the probably pages that might be more interesting to you is slide, let's see here, it's slide number 4, which shows, it shows the membership history. And you can see it goes back to 97, and Benton County had the 3 beds. And then it shows you currently, so 24 of their 36 beds are currently under contract. And they're hoping to, I think, you can see, not necessarily go to more contracted beds, but perhaps diversify it a little bit, spread it out a little bit more. I asked recently of the folks at Anoka, have any other counties decided to join? Any new counties? It looks like Stearns may, a contract for 1 bed. They may. That's what I've heard from Mike Williams, the Stearns County Administrator. So, so what's the benefit of membership? As I have in my agenda item, you pay next year $285 per day rather than $340. So you save $55 a day. On an annual basis, that's about $21,000 you would save by paying the member rate for that contracted bed. The folks at Anoka tell us that we've used an average about 1 bed on a consistent basis over the last 5 years. So that's why I think they justify in their suggestion we contract for 1 bed. There's another side of this coin though, and that is, as I mentioned, there's about right now 24 or 36 beds under contract. Now they attempt to fill those beds during the year. If those beds though aren't filled, the members then share in what they call an unused bed charge. So whatever they would have received in revenue, if those beds had been filled, then they didn't get that revenue. That forms this pot. And that pot is split up amongst the members in proportion to the number of contracted beds you have. And really, that's one of the big reasons I think Benton County got out of this, 15 years ago, was we were getting these big unused bed charges at the end of the year. And again, for beds we weren't using and so on. So I think to be a contracted member is somewhat of a calculated gamble. It's like, okay, if we need the bed, it's gonna work out great. If the facility is full, it's gonna work out great. If the facility isn't, then we're gonna pay for a bed we didn't need and also share an unused bed charge. It's a calculated gamble. Again, another part of this story is, again, one if I'm hearing from Anoka, and that is, and I'll just share with you what I've heard from them, is I'm just repeating, there's significant concerns about the viability of the facility, that it needs the guaranteed revenue stream to keep operating. The Anoka County will not subsidize it. So, as I've heard from Deb and Sheriff Troy, we need a facility. In other words, like, just like we need a county jail for adults, we need a facility for juveniles. So I think that the request from Anoka is that we be a partner to help maintain a viable facility that we need where we can send juveniles from Benton County. I don't have a recommendation for you. I really don't. I wish I did, but for me, this is kind of a toss-up. It's like, you know, and again, in the years you need the bed, the facility's full, a good deal. In the year that it's not so good deal. So I'm simply conveying the request to you all, and unfortunately, I don't have a recommendation for you either way.
Mr. Chair, just doing some quick math here. If we did choose, I mean, we're using the bed right now at one per year for the average of 5 years.
That's what they tell us, right?
Yep. With that said, if they, I mean, if we go and they don't fill another bed, we would be on the hook for about another 28,000. If you add those other additional 10 beds left to be sold.
Yeah.
And then times it by the 104,000 a year divided by 36, it comes out to be about 28,000 a
That's your
year.
potential unused bed charge per bed,
Yep.
yeah. Right.
In my, I mean, you're gonna be eating that up in the per day costs anyway. Or real close to it.
I understand your point. I mean, there's that significant monetary risk if those beds
I
aren't
mean, on the
filled.
$55 per day extra.
Yep, on the $55 per day extra is $20,000, so our delta is about $8,000
Yeah.
of risk. Versus if we don't, if they fill all of these beds with somebody at other counties and we don't have our bed anymore.
As I guess I question whether that has happened since we left the contracted rate, if we've ever had to look elsewhere.
Excuse me?
If we'd ever had to look elsewhere besides Anoka.
I'm sorry, I don't have an answer to that. I know oftentimes juveniles go to Wilmer too. I think the choice between Wilmer or Anoka often is based upon what does this kid need? And also what does this facility offer? So sometimes I've heard that, well, Anoka has maybe better services oriented towards substance abuse. So I think to some extent, again, it's what's the kid's issues and what do they offer is where they go, yeah.
Mr. Chair, Monty, sorry if I missed this, but I understood you to say that Anoka is saying that we use that bed 365 days a year. Do we know, is it 300 days a year, 220 days a year? Is it 365 days a year?
I think it's on average. That's the way it was portrayed to me. So I think they take the number of days a Benton County kid was in a bed. So it's a number of days. So they add those up, and I don't know. So that actually, Commissioner Johnson, is illustrated for you on slide number 9, where it says 2,000 member county opportunities. I believe what you see there are bed days. So 439, 475, 106. So the average was.
A .96 average daily placement on a
That's your
5-year.
statistic,
Yeah.
yeah.
But if you look at 18, that's a significant outlier, and there's Sheriff
There's
Heck
Sheriff
right there.
Hey, Troy.
2018 shows 106 versus these other 400 and some. I mean, that's. Maybe if I could ask the sheriff that question. Troy, I just asked Monty a question, and I don't know if you know this, but I understood him to say that Anoka County said that we're using that bed 365 days a year. My question is it 280? Is it 365? Is it 240? What's the real number? Because I'm hearing Anoka saying it, but I'd like to know what it really is.
So you caught me unprepared.
Okay, that's fine.
I was on that same call that the folks from Anoka said we were averaging one bed a day. I don't have any more numbers than that for you right off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, and that ties up to their .965 year average daily placement, but there's some significant swings in here in numbers per year. For example, I don't know if he has it on the screen or not. 2018, there's only 106 versus 409 last year.
Well,
guess-
that's one thing, the juvenile issue has shown great volatility over the years. It is incredible how this has ebbed and flowed. And that was what was going on, 15, 16 years ago. It was a low tide, and we were seeing all these unused bed charges. The last several years, though, it's raced back up. And I don't necessarily know there's the greatest explanations for it, why it happens.
Mr. Chair, I can understand Commissioner Kapinski's points. Going into this, I was actually thinking we lock ourselves into the fixed rate, makes the most sense. But we've got additional beds that we may get charged for if they don't fill that facility. So it's not really the $124,000, it's the $124,000 plus if they don't fill the facility. That's what I understood you to say, is that
Right,
the
so-
members are gonna share the beds that are not filled.
So there's, there's 12, I believe, so there's 24 currently, so there'd be 12 beds that are not under contract. If they don't fill, then we as members would share in that unused bed charge. So, that's the risk. That is
But-
the risk.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do we know what the cost is for Wilmer? Of what they
I
charge?
don't, I'm sorry, I don't know the cost in Wilmer.
Wilmer is, I think, about $15 less per day. So they're very comparable.
Very okay.
So-
Mr. Chair, I
Yes,
have
go
a
ahead.
question also. If, it looks like maybe sometimes we've had an extra person that's been there, would we just pay the 230 if they had room for an extra person? That we'd be adding to that pool by using somebody else's bed? Would we pay the
Are you
same?
talking about a situation where we've entered into the contract or now?
Or if we have more than one that needed to be in there and there was room for that person, would we pay this same base rate that we're paying for the second one?
My understanding is
Yes.
that if we're a member, we get the member rate for all the beds that we need.
Well, that would have to offset costs for everybody too.
Mr. Chair? Monty, I would bet that we don't have to make a decision on this today. We could actually table it and get some of these answers. But one of the questions I would like to find out too, maybe you have this, would we pay for the additional beds that are unused, would we pay the 340 or would we pay the 285?
As a member, let's just say, maybe if I understand your question, so if we're a member.
Yep.
And we need more than our contracted bed, we pay the non-member rate.
No, I'm talking on the beds that are unused. Would we pay, because we're a member, would we pay the 285 or the 340?
Sure. I'll have to ask, the gentleman's name is Dylan, from Anoka County, how they actually come up with that unused bed charge. Is it based upon the non-member rate? It stands to reason it would be based upon the non-member rate.
That's what I would think.
So it's 12 beds times the non-member rate times 365 days, or however many days it wasn't used, and that's what you get. And it's split up amongst then the members. So I must say, one thing that does surprise me, and that is, you would think under this circumstance, the non-member rate would be dramatically higher. I don't really quite follow why those are so close. If it were me running a place, I guess I would have a much higher non-member rate. And it would give then counties more of an incentive to be members. So, but that's their decision, so.
Or else they have somewhere else to go for non-member rate, like Troy said, well.
And I imagine too, they know there's multiple places that juveniles can be placed, so they've got to be quote competitive.
Yeah.
So,
I look at that facility and go, God, 3.75 million to run that 36 bed a year is pretty I think that's pretty fair. I can understand why there might be having some shortages on funding.
Mr. Chair, I think with the discussion I'm hearing, I'd move to table this till the next meeting until we get some answers back and the things have been.
maybe you could just articulate for me specific questions that I can relate to Dylan. And it might be possible, I could just invite him to be with us virtually to discuss this issue more in detail, and then he's gonna have answers just right off the top of his head in most instances. But do you have specific questions that I could relay to him to prepare for this next time?
I think the one that I brought up, the 340 versus 285 would be a good one.
So how is the unused bed charge determined?
Because I would go up $20,000.
I must say is I did ask Dylan for a 5-year history of unused bed charges assessed to members, and I never received that. So I just let you know I did ask for it.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, a question I'd have, a couple questions I'd have is, what our actual daily usage was in 2020 and current in 21, And then maybe, if we could just verify the cost difference between Anoka and Wilmer, and maybe why you would choose to go to one place over the other. I'm sure it's based on their services and what you need. But I think I heard you guess it was like $15 a day difference, but maybe we could expound on the number and why.
Mr. Chair. Sheriff, do you know how many facilities like this are out there in the state?
I can say for certain, we have the two in Anoka and Wilmer that we use frequently. How many more there are, I'd speculate that there's maybe a handful, maybe up to another 5 or 6. There's not a lot.
Yeah. Okay.
I do see a map in here.
Yeah.
Shows 1, 2, 3,
Is
4,
there-
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like there's about 10 total.
Is there one in Crow Wing County? Up in Brainerd, there used to be right on 238 and 212.
We've got Polk County, Clay County, Candy, Ojai, Beltrami, St. Louis, Anoka, Hennepin, Ramsey, Dakota, Scott.
I believe they closed the Brainerd facility.
Yeah, I think there used to be a big sign up there, juvenile. I believe it is gone.
Commissioner Johnson's looking at a map, Troy, that was just part of the presentation that Dylan sent us from Anoka, yeah, so.
Mr. Chair, I agree with Commissioner Johnson, tabling this to get a few more questions answered, but I'm just looking at the numbers with as few of them out there. If this comes back and we're at these same numbers and our delta is about $8,000 of risk, I'm gonna be inclined to make sure we'd have that bed.
And again, I think we can always continue using the facility as a non-member.
Right. We don't need a motion to table it. We just.
Table.
Table can just table
You
it.
know,
So we'll
I'll,
table it till next meeting.
I should just mention too, is I did run this by the Criminal Justice Committee, and I'm trying to remember which board members were there for that meeting. I didn't necessarily get a lot of feedback or consensus or recommendation per se from the Criminal Justice Committee, and I imagine too, they probably struggle with it the same way you are today, of like, well, okay, what's the risk here? So we did run it by that group though.
I look at the risk to the one previous to this one. That was scary, and I'd sure hate to be sending people out of state and paying the additional upcharge.
I guess I'd like to
We
see,
don't wanna see another facility close.
I guess I'd like to see the usage for.
Yep, absolutely.
I just want to confirm some
Yep.
numbers.
Yeah, we're hearing
Alrighty,
it from
we'll,
them.
we'll get some answers and I'll see if Dylan can be with us virtually next time too.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Okey doke, thank you.
At this point, we'll have commissioner meeting updates.
Okay.
You sound like you were volunteering to go first.
Oh, that's under Commissioner concern.
Yeah.
Oh. Can we start over there?
Okay.
I can start really quick, but mine is very simple. I don't really have anything. We had a broadband meeting and that was about it. So, and that went very well. Then we had a broadband, engineering meeting for the, fiber from St. Cloud to Foley. Chris was involved in that. Thank you, Chris. Chris did, that did get published, correct?
Correct, you went out Friday.
Yep, last Friday, so the engineering RFP has been published for bid, and that's a 3-week turnaround.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
So, that's really the update I had. You
I
got
was at the
anything
same
else?
meeting as Jared had. That's the only meeting I had, so thank you for that update.
Right. Beth?
I had the RSVP meeting and I grabbed the newsletter for
Yep.
all you guys to see. Yeah, they are still serving a lot of people and a lot of people are serving through, seniors are serving in that area. They get about 35,000 phone calls and asking about what needs are available and helping people to get what they do need. They have a lot of people that transfer people places and a lot of programs that they do. And then they have all kinds of fundraisers. You can basically look at the newsletter to see what's coming up and everything, but yeah, they're a very busy group. Yeah, they have the senior linkage line, that's what a lot of people call. And I was also at the Human Services meeting, I'll let Steve handle that one.
Okay, Steve?
Well, okay. We had a Career Solutions meeting, joint power board meeting. Beth was there too. And we actually had to get a new accounting firm. Luke Grainer did a jobs report, which I can share with you guys. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
And wasn't the best news, of course. As of now, Benton County lost 2.5% of all of jobs they'll never retain. Stearns County is at 6.3%
Wow.
of jobs that they'll never retain. And it's it's really people not coming back to work, not coming back to these jobs, whether they're retiring or
Right.
or choose not
So they
to.
really didn't lose the jobs, they just can't fill the positions.
Well,
Almost
Correct.
50%.
huh?
Almost 50%.
Some of them are, yeah. But they termed it as lost jobs.
Right.
So that these employers are not going to fill that position.
It seems really hard to believe that Benton County loses 2.5% of their jobs when every place you look has got a sign out for help.
Yeah.
It just don't make sense.
It doesn't make sense,
No.
but with all the numbers and the figures, that's how Deed and everybody
Yeah.
does their stuff. We're still fighting with Deed too, of course, because Career Solutions only open half the day.
Yeah.
And that's actually, I've been in meetings for the last 2 months, just about 2 to 3 times a week with Deed and Career Solutions, just trying to figure out a solution of how we can get Deed on board with us. And that is not working, to be honest with you.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Just a quick question on that. That 2.5%, is that actually in jobs that are being out there or people to fill the jobs?
That is jobs that the employers will not fill anymore.
Okay.
They're done.
Well,
That's what Deed or Career Solution
Correct.
thinks.
Deed, that's what Deed is telling us.
How about all the ones, they more than take up that 2.5%, just in
and-
what is needed right now.
And that is correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
so why don't they use them numbers and say that, we actually are in we could employ an extra 2.5% of the people.
We could employ an extra 7.8%.
Right, yeah, so.
But we can't
they
fill-
should-
they
they
can't
should learn
fill
how
the
to-
positions.
They should probably go to school from us and learn how to do math.
Well, with conversations with Deed, it's pretty one-sided.
Yeah,
I'll just be
okay.
honest with you with that. It's
Yeah.
pretty one-sided.
I mean, I can go to 5 different businesses in the little city of Rice and they all
Right.
got a sign at the front door. One needs 6, one needs 3, and they got 18 employees, he needs 6 more.
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting how Deed does their survey.
Right.
It's all line and call, that's it,
Yeah.
so. But that's been real interesting, actually. I also sat in for Commissioner Gopinski on the APO. Not a lot there, except that now you don't have to rate the
3 projects.
3 projects. The state's gonna do that. Just don't know how that happened.
How do they get to rate that when we're the ones dealing with them?
I don't know, there was a memo came forth 10 days ago prior to the meeting that said the state's gonna take care of that now. And there was a lot of concerns about that too at the meeting, of how's the state gonna rate it versus how we rate it,
Yep.
of the importance, But apparently the state knows better, so, oh well. And then with Beth, I actually was invited to a Minden Township meeting. I would ask Commissioner Gopinski to
Okay.
please go over there to get on their agenda, because they truly don't understand broadband yet. They had a lot of questions about that. Beth and myself, we've tried to explain it to them as best we could, and I point blank said, we're not the ones that should really be explaining this, because we got Commissioner Gopinski and Commissioner Johnson that are working on this, and they can better clarify and give you understanding.
Yep.
And it sounded like they weren't even interested in using none of their ARPA money for the broadband.
Okay, they meet the first Tuesday of the month. Do you have
That
any?
is correct.
We could run over and meet with them.
You know, so Mark Ebnett is the chair, so just contact Mark
Yep.
about that. I think that'd be a great place. You know, they also talked about, they're gonna be looking outside for a, I'm having an issue this morning, so bear with me. As I see Mike Harvey, I'm thinking with land services.
Oh, for
they're gonna look-
assessor?
Yeah, they're gonna look for an outside assessor.
You know, that's the
Okay.
second one. Rice is also looking for an outside assessor right now.
Yeah.
City of Rice is.
So,
Okay,
okay, that's all I have.
You
Sorry
were
for
done?
the confusion.
I didn't have anything that really needed to be reported on, so.
all right.
Commissioner concerns. Now we'll get to you.
All right, I had about a 45-minute conversation with Emily Murray, at AMC about the broadband, the RDOF, and the ARPA money, which is on a collision course, as Commissioner Johnson knows, of nothing getting done, with that. So I posed some questions to her, like, what is AMC, what is the state doing to get in front of this? Basically brought up the fact that we should have a committee with commissioners and legislators and even providers to combat and actually direct the federal government instead of having the federal government direct us. Because what's happening with these RDOF areas, and Benton County has quite a few of them, is there was a contract that was given to a company called LTD out of the Rochester area, but they got $1.2 billion of these areas across the country in, like, I thought 13 states or something like that. So they get 7 years to put it in.
Yeah.
And we've got 5 years left on our ARPA money. You see the problem? This could never get done on their side, and we have all this money that we could put towards it. So after doing that conversation with Emily, I contacted Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Johnson came up with a great idea about sending a letter to our legislators and stuff like that, and offering up our ability to be a part of a team to help direct it, instead of having somebody come back at us and dictate what and how we're gonna approach this. Because I think it should become a first come, first serve. If we wanna use our ARPA money for building out broadband, we should have that ability. If some counties wanna use the RDOF LTD grants from the federal government and wait 4 years, they should have that ability. But it should be up to each individual county and their commissioners to make that decision.
Mr. Chair, if I could expound on Commissioner Kapinski, we're getting prepared. We're getting ready to rock and roll here, and to sit on our hands for 3, 4 years, 5 years because of RDOF makes no sense. And we want to make sure that our state representatives and our U.S. congressmen know what's going on. And maybe they do, but we want to make sure that they know, so we can help drive some of that discussion. Because quite frankly, I'm not so certain AMC is up to speed on this.
They
No.
are aware of it, about what happened in Rochester, because I heard that a week ago Friday, but they didn't say what how they were gonna solve the problem.
So I think there'll be some discussion coming up Monday, maybe with Emily and other.
Well, even on the agenda, there's really not a lot of talk
No,
about
so we really
broadband.
want to make sure we keep moving ahead.
I did ask.
Yeah, you did.
That this get placed, and I got no response on that, so.
Yeah.
I think the no response is because nobody is asking these questions right now, and I don't think it's readily available on what the answers are gonna be. That's why I think it's a perfect time to get in front of it.
You know, when we're there next Monday, you might wanna suggest that counties or the AMC sets up a committee for this. I think they would listen to that, the way it sounds.
I think so.
Yeah, I really do, so.
Well, I think-
The other part I see on the letter is that you might wanna CC that letter to Senators Knobloch and Tina Smith too.
Smith.
I know Senator Knobloch is really into that.
She is, yeah,
Yeah,
she's
she is. She's
very
really-
supportive.
I'm sorry.
Senators Knobloch and Tina Smith,
Both US senators.
U.S. senators.
Oh, okay, Klobuchar.
Or
Klobuchar.
Klobuchar, there you
Yes.
go, I'm backwards here.
Smith, okay.
Smith,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha, we'll do that, yeah.
And when I was at the AMC meetings, it looked like western Minnesota had been filling in a lot of the broadband, so they weren't that concerned about it.
Well,
Yeah.
it certainly is a county by county deal. I
Yeah.
remember when we were at the fall conference, I believe it was Meeker County. They're not spending
They're
a
not in
dollar.
there, yeah.
No,
They're already covered.
yeah.
So,
They've got, that power company that went through and did all theirs.
Oh, we need a power company?
We don't have,
I don't think East Central and XL at this point are overly excited.
I don't think so either. But this really doesn't do anything. I mean, we're still moving forward with our broadband.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So we can get stuff in the ground.
We're still moving forward, but this RDOF area could slow us if there's not decisions made. So that's why it's very important.
I don't think it's gonna slow the project from St. Cloud to Foley.
No, no.
But the
that-
rest of
But
it,
the rest of it,
Yeah.
being able to expand out here, RDOF has tied our hands.
Yeah.
But there's really no reason for us to wait.
I brought up a few ideas, we'll call it, and I'm not gonna go into elaborate on those, but, she thought it was very clever on some ways around some stuff, so we'll keep moving forward to the plan.
I'm kinda hoping I hear more commissioners on Monday state the fact that they're gonna spend it and ask for permission later.
Well, that's what,
you must be referring.
that's actually what they said at the last district.
Oh, I know. One of them was
Specifically
very
one,
specific
yeah,
about it. We're
specifically
spending
one,
it.
who
What
has
are you gonna
said-
do? Come
yeah.
tear the fiber out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he's basically said that in other years too, on other projects.
Is there a motion then perhaps to authorize the chair to sign the letter and we'll get that sent off?
I'll make that motion.
And if, Commissioner Heinen, if I could ask you to amend that to include the two US
And
senators?
include the two senators.
Okay, and I'll second that.
Right, motion been made and seconded to authorize chair to sign and send to the two U.S. senators. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.
I did speak with Kendra at Soil and Water about the appointment, and she said they don't have a strong opinion about who is appointed.
Okay,
She said it's really, you could look, for example, at the map, which is on the backside of this, and you can see the hash lines designate the watershed boundary in question. And she said, well, it could be based possibly on which board member has the greatest portion of this in their district, who has the time, who has the interest. It's really, she said, totally up to you all to decide. They don't have an opinion about who it should be, so.
that, when I looked at the map, that's what I kinda looked at, was who had the greatest portion of the area in the watershed, because, as you look at it, you know, I know they're gonna take a little different route than the other one did, and the watershed is really important. I would say, of all the dollars that are gonna be spent, there's probably 80% are gonna be spent in the watershed.
Right.
There, you know, that's where the water starts. I mean, it doesn't start next to the river. So I mean, my opinion is that, he's on the Water Resource Advisory, Commissioner Johnson's on that board and with the large portion. I mean,
And I'd certainly be willing to, with your help as an alternate, potentially if I need to miss a meeting or so, but
okay.
Or which is it all this area?
It's all that area in the
Hash marks.
hash marks, right, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So-
mine is,
it's just not the river.
mine is totally in it.
Right.
And,
But area is what he's talking.
I'm talking area, the largest area.
In the clear.
yeah, and you're already on it,
So am
right?
I.
I'm on the RAC.
Yeah.
Water Resource
So they already
Advisory
sit on that.
Committee.
So was there a motion for Commissioner Johnson, Commissioner Pops as an alternate then to serve on this?
I'll make that motion.
Or is Mr. Pop in the area?
I'll just be the alternate on that.
Okay, his is there? Okay.
He's got quite a bit in that area.
That's
He's got
that
some,
area?
but not all.
All the blue is, and then the
Okay.
hash.
All that area north of Gilman,
Sounds good.
yeah.
Okay. We've had a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion been made and seconded
Go ahead.
to have Commissioner Johnson sit on there, and I will fill in if he's needed, if I'm needed.
Okay, now I got a question for
Sure.
discussion. I would truly have to agree, because Commissioner Pop, you've been on this for 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
because I was on it at the beginning as an alternate.
Well, you still are an alternate.
I know, I still am. But you've been through this whole process,
Right,
and it's a grueling process, I will admit that,
yeah.
you know, so, thank you.
All right.
And as discussion, you all did witness his ability to be an alternate here. If needed.
Yeah, it's no, you know.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second for the motion for Commissioner Johnson to be on the Mississippi St. Cloud Watershed planning. This is a planning committee or planning advisory, I think they call it. And I'll pull up the alternate. Is there any other discussion? Otherwise, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Set committee of the holes?
We have no new ones.
Wow.
All right.
Wow.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That didn't last long.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Roxanne, you told me
Roxanne was
yesterday.
here for a reason, that's of course.
I thought there was nobody in the,
Roxanne would like to schedule a committee of the whole to have some discussion regarding building inspector.
Correct.
oh, no.
Yep. So,
Okay.
How soon, Roxanne, do we need to get this completed?
I would say that as long as we're moving forward with, the same contract, whether we're just talking about, a difference in years, then it can be scheduled, you know, as late as, you know, into November.
Okay,
Just as long as we get it done for, as long as I'm able to get that contract to the attorney's office and approved and on the, at least the very last agenda in December.
okay.
But I just wanted to get those started, early, so.
You could do that right after a board meeting,
Just
right?
gonna say. is
That can't be, that won't be a real long,
Nope,
think
just
so.
wanna make sure that we have those discussions.
So for
on-
November
on-
2nd, then after the county board.
would that work?
Yep.
Yep.
thanks, Roxanne for reminding us.
Yep, thank you.
November 2nd, okay, upon adjournment of county board, okay. Were we gonna invite David to be part of this? I forgot.
That's up to the board. He's more than willing to, attend that, cause we would wanna have discussions on what it looks like to increase some of the percentages of the fees that he takes home and discussions on the existing fee schedule.
I think it'd be a good
Yeah,
thing for him to be here.
Okay,
Yep, he's more
Yeah.
than willing to do that.
all right.
Alright, thank you.
Thanks, Roxanne.
So the only one, we'll need a motion for that now.
So moved.
second.
Motion been made and seconded to set the committee of the holes that we have before us. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
So I believe, Mr. Chair, that brings us to our two closed sessions, and I
Yep.
guess for the sake of efficiency, I was wondering if you could just, if we could have a motion for both, and then we could just simply move from one to the other, and, that, we'll post the signs for both closed sessions.
Yep.
And, I was gonna recommend actually, we do the one on medical data first. I believe, Susan Hanson is scheduled to join us about 10:30 or so, so if she's on, we have to switch to a different go-to.
Right,
But if she's on, I'd like to do that one first. I think
Okay.
Troy is here, of course.
right.
And then we'll go to the second one on real property.
Whatever you wish.
So if you could just, do a motion on both of those, and we'll get those in the record.
So Chair, I'll move to go into closed session in regards to medical data and then also purchase or sale of real property.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to go into closed session.
And under discussion, Mr. Chair, it's, we have to divulge the subject property that we're going to be discussing.
Yep.
And as we did before, the subject properties are the old high school lot across from us, and also then the lot that's adjacent to our core facility. Those are the two subject properties.
Yep. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we will be moving into closed